Hey there, welcome to Her Truth Revealed, unraveling our midlife era. I'm your host, Wonderful Morrison. This space is for the woman who's done pretending, done hiding, and ready to step fully into her truth. Midlife isn't about fading into the background. It's a time where resilience lights the way and authenticity becomes the loudest voice in the room. In this season of our lives, we are more than just survivors. We are creators, revolutionaries, and unapologetic women rewriting the rules. I've been through my battles, rebuilding from loss, betrayal, and heartache. But here's the truth. Every challenge, every tear, and every setback has led me to this moment of profound transformation. Together, we're going to dive into raw, real conversations that shatter stereotypes, tackle the tough stuff, and embrace the powerful magic that is midlife. So, if you're ready to live this chapter with boldness and joy, hit subscribe. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it and leave a review so we can keep this revolution going. Ladies, no more masks, no more apologies, just the truth of who we are. Let's do this. Hello and welcome to another episode of Her Truth Revealed, where midlife women come together and have conversations about our journey, the journey to creativity, to aliveness, to grief, to surrendering, to letting go. And who thought we'd have to do that all over again once we hit 40? But actually, it's not all over again. It's the beginning. It's the beginning of our journey. And today I have a special guest, and she hails from across the pond, and she's going to bring to us all of the beauty of what being a creative person is today and being a business owner at the exact same time, with a lot of moving parts, because she talks to a lot of people on a regular basis. But before we move on, let's just talk about something very quick, which is my gratitude. My gratitude for all the people who listen, who share, who comment, who leave reviews that are amazing and beautiful and loving. I couldn't be doing this without you. If there was no you, I would just be talking to myself every day. So thank you so much. And with that, let's get started. Thank you so much, Naomi, for being here. Thank you for all that you do in the world. Tell us what it is that you do and how you do it and what got you here. What led you to this place?
Thank you for inviting me today, Wonderful. It's an absolute pleasure. So I'm Noemi Beres, and I live in Cyprus, in the beautiful island of Mediterranean Cyprus in Europe. And I am an entrepreneur since 2007, but I'm also, and I run a podcast booking agency called Podcast Connections. I'm the co-founder of it, but I'm also a mixed media artist since, 2012 or something like that. So since I was born, or I don't know, like teenage years probably. And and I loved what you just said, and you started the conversation because yes, I'm an entrepreneur, but yes, I'm also a creative person and artist, and how we can blend that together, into our life and into our business. And I think that's quite a magical, because we don't have to pick, we don't have to choose. We can be both, and it can work perfectly together, aligning whatever we're doing. And so I was born and raised, just a little bit about myself. I was born and raised in Hungary and Central Europe, and moved to Ireland in 2000, when was it? 2004, that's right. And I've been living there for 7 lovely years. And I became an entrepreneur there, started for my first business, which was an online travel-related business. And I was doing content creation, social media marketing, blogging, travel writing, you name it. Like solopreneurs, you wear too many hats at the same time. But I really enjoyed that job too, and that work. But unfortunately, it stopped in 2020 because of the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, everything stopped, like travel-related businesses just went up in the smoke. So we had to pivot together with my husband, and we started our podcast booking agency. And like 2020 is not just because of the COVID, but it was really tough on me because I lost my dad to cancer in 2019 and my grandma to an accident in 2019, again, a few months later after my dad passed away. So it was a lot going on. And lost my business to COVID. So it was a lot. It was tough. And I was dealing with grief, with anxiety, with stress. But then luckily I went back to my roots. I went back to who I am, who I was, an artist. And art really helped me to heal during that time. And when I realized that I can help other people, I did a few courses on art therapy, positive psychology. And since then, getting on podcast and sharing my message with the world, I'm hoping and trusting in the universe that it helped me to just, if I can help a few people with my message, that's already a win for me.
Wow. Your trajectory, all of us, I know the world is so much bigger now and we're all interconnected because of technology.
Yeah.
However, traveling is still something when you leave your roots, the place where you were born and the people and then, there's many, many generations that were there before you. And you just decide, I'm going to get up and I'm going to go. I think that's part of artists are wanderers and they want to explore and see the world in a different view, right? Because although like forests all look the same no matter where you go, but it's different in Ireland than it is in Hungary, right? Just the landscape is different and the people and the environment. And then you end up in Cyprus. And it's funny that you said initially, you're like, oh, well, I started art in 2012. I don't know. Do you feel like that has been in you since when you were a child and as you were growing up? Was that something that called to you pretty regularly? 2012 just happens to be the moment you're like, okay, I'm gonna do it.
It's true, very true, wonderful. Since I was a kid, I was a creative type. I always loved, drawing, painting, jewelry making, you name it, anything. I was always just attracted to it. Plus, I was an only child, so I had to entertain myself. Yeah. And we didn't have internet back then, and just like 2 TV channels in Hungary. Yeah. So I just, I loved doing it. And during my teenager years, my rebellion years, or whatever you call it, I was painting and abstract and everything. So I loved that part. And then I mentioned 2012 because, that was kind of my calling. And I was expecting with my son. And that was the time when I started to make my mixed media collage. And then that was the special moment when I was, pregnant and just getting ready for giving life to my son. And it was a very special moment that I started to make my collages at the same time, my mixed media collages and paper collages too.
Wow. And do you sell these products or is it for your personal use? Where did it go when you started creating it? How did you allow it to move from your 4 walls?
Well, because before the pandemic, I started to join different art communities and went to different art retreats, and it was amazing. Like I really enjoyed that part. So I started to make more paper collages, like cut and paste collages, and I sold them online and also had a few group exhibitions where I sold a few of my artworks. But then when I started to make my mixed media collages, the ones you can see behind me on the wall, these are actually hand-sewn collages on canvas. And these are all my basically homage to my Hungarian heritage. A lot of pictures from my family, like very old vintage pictures, like from 1890 or 1915. So they're very old and very like precious pictures to me, or postcards that I collected as a child, which was a very long time ago. So I use them and intertwine them in my collages. So basically these collages are not for sale, but I would love to have a solo exhibition and show them to the world. Obviously, I could sell a few, but these are very close to my heart because they're all like very special and kind of memories sewn together on a canvas.
Wow. That's funny because in homes, when you go into homes, right, there's framed photos but when one of my favorite things I ever did was when I went to Europe and we went to those giant palaces, right? They always had pictures from great. And really, a majority of us, we can only go back maybe 2 or 3 generations when it comes to photos. And I think when you can find not even just photos, but like you said, postcards or mementos that
Yeah.
relatives had centuries before you were ever born and put it together, it adds an element of uniqueness and special. It's a special experience for not just you, but for us, because it shows us who you are. So what's interesting is most entrepreneurs I know love art, of course. Who doesn't love art? But you intertwine both of it together, like your imagination of like the pictures behind you of weaving old with the new or textures, right? You're offering different textures. So the business is kind of like art because you never really know. You may start off with a clean canvas and you think you know what you're going to put on that canvas. And then you start doing something and it turns out completely different, right? So, do you feel like you took all of the knowledge of your great imagination and creativity and incorporated it into how does that work within your business? Like, what do you use? Because business is very structured and systematic, and it
Yeah.
doesn't move very much. So, how do you
No.
incorporate your creativity and the kind of the stiffness of business together?
Yeah, it's like, left brain, right brain. So I would
Yeah.
definitely both working at the same time. It's really interesting because I have a master's degree in Scandinavian linguistics. So I'm, with
Wow.
communication and everything, that really helped me to cope with whatever, came to me in business and in different languages. And that was absolutely fine. And I love that part. But going back to your question, it's really interesting because like whatever you do, you always need creativity. You can't live without it. So
Mm.
it's kind of a must in business because you just have to reinvent yourself or find a new solution to a problem. And it can be just black and white because it's changing, it's fluid. You
Yes.
you really have to go with the flow. And being an artist, like, kind of helped me to learn that along the way. And also, it's really interesting. For example, in social media, when, for example, I love LinkedIn, and LinkedIn was always a very professional platform, tight suits,
Mhm.
whatever, and you just really like
Yeah.
you really have to be like present, and you really have to be professional, and your branding
Yeah.
should be like very
A little
specific.
stiff.
It was very stiff when I joined, like, I don't know, 15 years ago or so. Like, luckily and fortunately now it's changing. So I can really express my creativity, like creating LinkedIn posts or Facebook posts or Instagram posts. And people complimented on that, like, oh my God, I love your posts because they are so different. And you show like your
Mm.
two sides of you, like you're a businesswoman, you're an entrepreneur, but you're also an artist, and you post about gratitude, you post about grief and anxiety. So yeah, we can be both. We don't have to pick sides, or like I be just an entrepreneur, I be just a creative person. No, I mean, we can
Mhm.
totally use it, and we can totally own it, because I think that's really
Yeah.
important. And yeah, for example, social media, it's a big place for me where can I really use my creativity and spread that in the world. So I think it's fun to do that. And also, when dealing and serving with people and just being creative, and a problem arises over something, and you're not so stiff, but you really want to help people and being
Yeah.
creative the way you help them. And I think it's fun and it's really exciting.
I love hearing that because a majority of us women in midlife, it's painful. It's painful
Yeah.
because, well, I think a big part of the pain isn't so much it's about social media, it's about the vulnerability of
Yeah.
who we are on social media, right? It's easy to curate the perfect, the
Mm.
nice, the this, but to share a little bit of the vulnerability in there takes a little bit more talking yourself into, which makes sense because being a creative where you're practicing being a creative person every day, art is very vulnerable. There's not a piece of art that you look at and go, oh, that's pretty. You look at it and you can feel the person who created it, whether it's
Yeah.
something you like or something you don't like. So I think that's just an added plus in terms of your being such a creative. So of all the businesses in the world, Naomi, like of all the things that you could have picked from, why pick a business where you help other people get on podcasts? Why that? Was that by accident or was that by choice?
I would say it was an accident. I mean, total and utter accident. Because no, I wasn't born to be a podcast booking agent. When I was born, there's like no podcast in the world. Basically, what happened is that, we lost the business, the online travel related business. So we had to pivot. And luckily, we had a mentor who actually helped us getting into the podcasting world. And from one day to another, basically, there was from one night to another, my husband came to me and it's like, okay, so COVID is here. We were told that like everything is going back to normal in 2 weeks, but it doesn't look like. So we need to pivot. We need to do something to get, obviously to support our business and support our life. And so that was it. And I said, okay, let's go and let's do this. I mean, to be honest with you, Wonderful, I didn't listen to podcasts or anything before 2020. So for me, it was everything like brand new. But because I'm creative and I'm kind of this entrepreneurial vibe that I never look back, it's like, okay, just let's do it. Like, let's go with it. And I don't like this to say this, but it's like fake it until you make it. And it was like that. I mean, totally. I mean, I had to learn a lot of things in the business at the beginning and obviously find those clients, but just basically accidentally ended up in the podcasting world, which I fell in love with later on. It was so fascinating, and I met so many interesting and amazing people across the globe. And thanks to Zoom, I can connect with you and I can connect with other people. And I would say like 99% of my clients are in the US and my friends in the US too, which is so weird because I'm sitting here in Cyprus in Europe. But it's fascinating, and I just really enjoy connecting people, and I love connecting with people too. So it's fun. It's a fun job to have.
And I love that you incorporate fun also, the word fun, because I think we need to talk about that more, because everybody thinks, well, not everybody, I shouldn't put everybody in the same box, but a majority of people I work with are women, and business can be very stressful. That is so true. But I think business is fun also. It really creates a lot of a process of imagination, right? I may not be creative in terms of painting or drawing, but I find creativity in ways of how I communicate to the world or who I talk to. And like what you said, I think women in general have spent a lot of our time being surrounded by our immediate world, right? Especially when you have kids, you're only surrounded by the kids and things associated with the children or associated with work. But if you have a brick and mortar, whereas I think we want to expand. Like you said, a majority of your clients, like you said, 99% are across the water from you. They're not even in your neighborhood, right? But I think that's what makes what we are walking into, this new world of technology and expansion, beautiful. Okay, so let's pretend I love I want to be in a podcast. This is just words I've heard from many women in my age group in business. I love listening to podcasts. I want to be on a podcast. I think podcast is amazing, but I don't know where to start. I don't know where to begin. I don't know what to do. I am not sure. And how we are with our friends when we talk may not be the same way we talk when we're on Zoom. So what is your top 3 advice for somebody that's saying that they don't know where to begin?
Yeah, that's a great question, a very complex one. So, I mean, first of all, you have to be super clear about what your business is about and what you do, because I've seen women struggling at even just to tell what their message is, what their business is about. And I asked them, so who's your ideal client? What do you exactly do? And they have hardship telling me what do actually they do. And that's really important, because once you get on a podcast, I mean, you have a few seconds or a minute to tell you in a very condensed story, what you're doing and who you're helping, who you're serving. So it's really, first of all, I think the first is really important to figure out what your message is to the world, because that's your business, that's you, but you need to be super clear about it. The second, do your research, because there's 4.5 million podcasts out there, but you have to find the one that actually suits your business. And there are so many different podcasts out there, so you really have to find your niche. But in order to find your niche, you have to listen to podcasts. Some people, I think they make a lot of mistakes there because, okay, I just want to get on a podcast. I just get on a Facebook group. There are a lot of Facebook groups and they just apply to wherever. And they don't care like what kind of podcast their name is associated with. But you have to be like careful with that because your name, whoever you types your name into Google, your name will pop up whenever you are on a podcast. So if you don't want to be associated with a certain podcast, so don't apply to be a guest. So do your research, listen to those episodes and get the vibes. What kind of vibe you're getting from the host? What kind of, what do they represent? I think that's really important. So do your research. I mean, that was the second. And the third is come prepared. So get ready, create your bio, create your topics and talking points. And if you don't have a professional headshot, just take your time and just spend some money on it to create one. And if you don't have a podcast guesting one sheet, also create one. It's really important to be, professional and represent yourself as a professional entrepreneur to get in touch with someone. And when you write a pitch or when you approach a podcast host, also, it's very important to be somehow unique and stand out and be clear about your message, who you are and what you do. Because, okay, I am in marketing field and I just want to be on your podcast. That's fine. But like you have to be more specific. You have to stand out. I mean, podcast hosts nowadays getting hundreds of emails and messages, through all kinds of platforms just to get on the podcast. So you have to stand out. And in order to stand out, you have to work on yourself a little bit to be a better guest.
And, I thank you so much for sharing that because I believe that you're right. Most people think, I just want to be on a podcast and then I'll just talk about whatever. But you're right. I get a lot of emails about being a guest on my podcast, which I didn't understand at first. I go, how do they know? How do they find my email? Oh, I forgot. When you start a podcast, you have to register. Because I hit the top 10% globally, I thought, oh, this is why people keep reaching out to me. And you're right. There are just some people that sound great, but it's not a good fit for what I'm doing. So it's not I'm just not going to have random people talking about the things that they believe is great, but isn't really for my audience. So that's really interesting. Okay, so now we have a person that is much more well-versed. They're more experienced. They've done a few podcasts and they are wanting to grow more, right? They want to grow, but they haven't hired a person like you or a company like you. How do they start looking how to expand their voice by connecting to more podcasts?
I think podcasting right now, in 2025 is the best networking tool ever. So basically, so many people don't use LinkedIn as wisely as they should. And I think if you get on LinkedIn, there are tons of podcast hosts there too. So you can just start reaching out to people and ask them to connect and establish a relationship with them. I'm not saying just pitch yourself, like a novel to them, like through LinkedIn or whatever, but really you just have to start networking and get to know people and expand your network by doing that. But also, obviously there's YouTube, like second biggest search engine. There's also Apple Podcasts. There's also Spotify. So wherever you go, basically you can find these podcasts and by yourself. You listen to them, you check them out. And once you start get the feeling what kind of niche, what kind of podcast you like, and you want to be guest on, it will give you like similar podcasts. So you can reach out to them as well. So I think that's a great method. And there's also a page called listennotes.com where you can find tons of podcasts. And if you're lucky, there are some like contact details of podcast hosts are there too. So, but you have to you have to do your research. You have to work a lot on that. That's why people hire us because it takes a lot of time. So either you focus on your business or you just researching podcasts and be a guest, but it takes a lot of time and energy instead of focusing your own business. And that's when, people hire like podcast booking agencies.
Yes, which makes a lot of sense because like anybody, entrepreneurs have 8 million hats that they wear. And marketing is one of the largest areas of focus and concentration, right? Because it's how you create visibility, it's how you get sales, and podcasting is an arm of your marketing strategy. And now you're consumed. You already spent 10 hours on your business. Now you're going to spend another 4 hours a day on researching podcasts. and sending them things and then responding back and forth. And like you said, it's a layered relationship. You don't just reach out to somebody and, hey, guess what? I think I'd be awesome on your podcast. It's a relationship building, which takes time. And so you have to really decide where you put your energy as a business owner. And then for me, I feel like your business, my business, I help women with their messaging. That's really what I do in marketing. And what's interesting is, when women think, I don't know, what that's more expense than the income I'm making. But in reality, the first 3 years of your business is all about expense. You are building, you are literally are not thinking you're going to make any money and if you do, you're putting it back into your business. And it's important to understand, if you want a podcast, this is a very serious part of your business growth, because you can't be doing, well, I want a podcast and I want a YouTube and I want to, be on social media and I want to do, oh my goodness, then there can't just be you. There has to be other people in it. To me, investing in companies like yours to expand their brand and to create a stronger visibility is magic, because it's worth it. It's worth every penny. It's worth every ounce of energy that you're putting into your own business. And that's just my little plug for my friend Naomi. Not that she asked me to, just saying, as a marketing expert, there's things that you should pay for and invest in, and there's things that you could do on your own. But you have to decide where your energy goes. Because if you spend all your energy and expense it like that, you don't really have a lot to give to your own clients. Then now you're weighing out the difference of, are you of value to the people you serve, right? With the lack of energy that you have. So now let's talk about something really fun. What do you see as one of the biggest, like maybe the top 3 mistakes that we do out there as podcast guests?
Yeah, that's a great question. I love it. Yeah, they're not, for example, people they're not prepared. So they just wing it. And I've been doing podcast guesting. Now this is my 5th year. But I never wing it. I always go out there. I always listen to one episode. I did it with your podcast too before I got on the show. I think it's just so important. And even just to being, appreciative of your work. So at least I listen to something. I know what your business is about, what you do, and how you, interact with your guests. I think that's really important. So be prepared. Never wing a podcast interview, because even I have friends that they've been doing podcast interviews 10 plus years and they still come prepared and they never wing it. I think that's really important. The second mistake that people make, they are not engaging. They're very good what they're telling you, and what they know a lot about their business, and they know a lot about like how to do things, but just somehow just be engaging during a conversation, not to be stiff, not to be so formal, but treat the podcast interview as a friendly conversation between 2 people, like over a cup of coffee, over a dinner, because it is what it is. This is not keynote speaking. This is not a monologue. This is like a 50-50 back and forth, like conversation. Just try to be engaging, and that can be a problem, because some people can be a little bit boring or dry when they talk business. But you need to involve a story. You need to open up and be open and vulnerable. It doesn't matter if you're a CPA or if you are I don't know, like a holistic coach. You still need to bring your story in, and you still need to be entertaining. And the third mistake, what I noticed, is that people use podcasts as purely for promotional purposes. Like I wrote a book, and I had these stories, heard in different podcasts and from different people, like, I'm an author, and the podcast was asked a question, and like, you can find it in my book. You can find it on page 11, or, something like that.
Yes.
It's not respectful. I mean, this is not promotion. The podcast is not for you. This is not your promotional place. I mean, obviously, the host will ask you, so where people can find you and how they can get in touch with you. But it's not about just self-promotion. And because podcast hosts work a lot, and you have to bring value. You have to bring something to the table and give value to the audience, and respect the audience, that you're not just promoting something, your service or your book, but you're actually giving value to people. I think these are the top 3 mistakes that people make.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because
And I
You're
have a few
so
other
right.
too. Like I could go on with them.
I bet you could, because you've been doing it for so long now. But I think it's really important. The podcast presence is a real thing. Not everybody does, especially in the beginning. No one really did video part of podcasts.
Yeah.
It was just all, audio. And I think it's even worse, because then it's just dry. It's just dull. And it's so fascinating how being present and having the presence when you're interviewed, and actually having the comfort of like, this is a friend. This is somebody I want. Because there, like you said, there's 4 million podcasts. You don't have to say yes to all of them. And you
Yeah.
should choose into podcasts where you can relate with that person or talk, and the listening ahead of time. That's a big one too. I've always been a podcast listener. I used to think, God, I could spend all day listening to podcasts.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's so much information out there, and it's really fun. Really, if people are listening right now thinking, gosh, I really want to do podcasts, but I don't know, it's time for you to get with the program, ladies and gentlemen, because the world has shifted. And what used to be a very distant relationship, like radio hosting, or is now very, very like, you can do it. You can do it when you decide you want to do it. You can find the resources. You can Google that thing. You can listen to podcasts and then decide, I think I'm going to write this person and say, I want to be on the podcast. But you also have to bring your own A game to podcasting. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Because you're right. You probably could have a giant list of like, don't do this, don't do that, and don't do this. So with that being said, what do you believe is like the thing when people are like, okay, I've done it. I've scheduled a podcast. I'm going to be on. I'm going to be on July 20th on this podcast at 9 a.m. What do you think is the initial things right before? Because it is still nerve-wracking. Like, Naomi, I've been at this too. I still get nervous every time right before. I have a little ritual that I do to get the nerves out. But for people who don't do this on a regular basis and want it to be a part of their thing, right? Their way of showing up in the world. What is some rituals that you've heard from your own clients and what you do yourself before they get
Oh, I love that question. Yeah. I mean, first and foremost, be present. As you said, like being present, it's really important. So try to lock the outside world out and try to just really being present, and don't book like tail to tail interviews, because that's a big no-no. I mean, just rushing from one interview to another just because you want to cover a lot of interviews during a week. That's not the best thing, because people will feel that vibe is off. You are rushed. Maybe you're bored. You just like, you are monotone, and no, you're not entertaining. And like coming prepared also includes that maybe you do a few breathing exercises before, just before you just ground yourself before the interview, before you just hit that button, that join the call button, and you just sit down for a few minutes and just to being quiet and get away from your family, because most of us are, working remotely in our home offices, like everyone, the whole family is around you somewhere in the house. So you want to get away from the drama and you want some quiet and peace, and just ground yourself, some breathing exercises, not like writing emails to clients just a few minutes before the interview. You just be in peace and being present. I think that's really important, just to get into the vibe and into the flow. And of course, there are other things that you have to prepare on yourself, but your background should look fine. I mean, no dirty laundry around, or, running dogs or cats or whatever. And also, like, obviously the microphone, the camera, the ring light, the lighting, the sound. Sound is crucial when it comes to podcasts, because most of the people, although everybody records it on, but there was a study about that most of the people still just listen to the podcast on the go, in the gym, while cooking, while walking. So it's really important that the sound quality is very good, so you don't sound like someone, through a telephone line from 80s or something like that. And because that would take away from the quality of the interview, and people will just stop listening. So basically, it's all about your sound and how you look like. Obviously, you prepare a little bit yourself, and especially, I thought that for women, we have we have to do more, obviously. Makeup, clothing. For guys, it's easier. I think it's so much easier if you get on a podcast. But yeah, you have, as you said, you have a ritual. And as a podcast guest, you can totally have a ritual. You get ready. You don't overbook yourself with interviews.
Yeah.
You're calm, you're present, and you're presentable as well. And you feel good in your skin, and you're happy to share that with your world. Maybe you create your own branding and your own style. For example, I wear a lot of red on podcast interviews. I mean, that's kind of my color for the interviews, or yellow, and I like that. But you can totally do that, because that's your personal branding too. It's part of a personal branding and part of your marketing strategy. I mean, it may sound, wild, but it is what it is.
Right. Well, I think so many, and especially in the time that we live in now, trusting who we're listening to is a big part of what we're gauging on a regular basis. And when you're consistent, and, you said that I didn't know that in the beginning. And I used to, the very first year, I would do back to back, because I was only available for a certain amount of hours, and I only had one day that I would do it. So I'd do it back. It's exhausting. And at some point, people can sense the energy. Because even though I try to be peppy, it's tough, because I'm like 5 interviews in, and and you get lost. And I decided, I'm like, no, that's not worth it for me. I would rather do 1 to 2 interviews with a big space in between. And if people, because I used to be worried, like, well, what if people can't wait till that long? Well, I had to get over that and decide, like, no, those are the available times I have. And if they can't, they can't. If they can, they can. Right. And we just have to kind of deal with it on that end. And I love what you said, where you're like, don't get on your phone. Or that's happened to me too, where I'm interviewing and they're on their phone, like responding to a text message. And I remember thinking, that is so rude, right?
It is.
But nobody could see it. It was just because I didn't do video yet, but I knew it. So it affected my voice inflection.
Of course. That's rude. That's really rude. I mean, that's not respectful at all. I mean, when you're not present, I mean, it's like you're driving and using your phone. It's the same.
Oh, those are, well, and then there have been times where because I interview women primarily, when their kids come in, and that to me isn't as disruptive, because we have to also show the rest of the world that, I'm still a mom and I still have responsibilities. But it's when it's, things like, and sometimes it wasn't that blatant, but you could tell. It was like,
and you know it. So
I know what's going on.
Energy, to shift the whole energy. And then it's like,
Yeah, I believe that. And I love that you are bringing up energy and presence, because even though people think it's just a podcast and you don't pay for it and it's free and all this, it's still representing you. It's still representing you on a wider scale of an audience, because people are sharing it, right? And people are listening to it. And when I found out that I was heard in 27 countries, I thought, oh my gosh, because you don't start off thinking that that's what it is. But today is, the resources that we have and the accessibility to it all is much easier than when we were growing up. I was with you. We only had like 5 channels growing up, and it turned off at like 11 o'clock. There was no TV after a certain time. Today it's different. You have access to all kinds of things, and all day long, 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And we can't minimize the idea of, well, I'm the one that found it, I'm going to guess. No. Now, Naomi just told us, ladies, that there is a way to get on. And also it helps. Do you believe that when a person is a great host or a great guest, that you have the want to share them with other people?
Absolutely. I just had a podcast interview last week, and we were talking about exactly the same topic. Like, for example, podcast hosts, they do talk to each other. So it's like, oh, I love that guest. We're like, you serious? They applied to me, for my show too. So they talk. And so if you're not prepared, and if you're kind of dodgy a little bit when it comes to podcast guesting, people talk, and they will know about you, good or bad, everything. So that's why it's really important to just be careful what you do on podcasts, because there's a bigger effect than just talking to you like for 45, 50 minutes or so.
Yeah. And in your business, those are things you do prep your people for, right? Like ahead of time. Okay, good. Because I was just thinking, well, do you just send people podcasts or do you help them kind of prepare? So you do the whole thing.
We do the whole thing. We have a strategy call when they sign up with us /coaching session. I don't like the coaching part, but it is coaching. And so we go through their bios, we go through their topics, talking points, their one sheet, checking their call to action, their, freebies. Like we go through everything step by step. And if they don't have something, we just help and brainstorm together and help them to create it. So just to help them to be better guests and not just better, but also more prepared when it comes to interviews.
Yes, that's amazing. Okay, so as we're getting near the end of our interview, but I could talk to you about this forever because I have so many questions, like what else? But maybe another time. So let's say you're walking down the street, no matter where you're at, and you walk into a cafe and you see 25-year-old you. What would you say to her that she would actually listen to?
Wow, I love that question. I always struggled with self-esteem growing up as a teenager, but thankfully I have a mother who really supported me when it comes to my self-esteem, and just trust your instincts and just have more self-esteem, have more courage, and present yourself in that way, because you attract people with your energy, no matter what you do. And it can be online, in person. And that's really important. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody will believe in you. I guess it's a cliche too, but it is true. I mean, that the way you represent yourself, your vibrational energy is so important, because that's why people attracted to you in business, in personal life. I think that's really important. And also just to keep telling myself, just keep going, no matter what you start in life, business, art, just keep going. Because once you have something on your mind, just go with the flow and do it. Obviously not like, senseless or something. Obviously need a plan, but still just believe in yourself and just keep doing whatever lights you up.
Your 25-year-old self thanks you and gives you a high five and says, that's all I needed to. Sometimes we just need to hear, whether it's a stranger or not, we just need to hear a little bit of a boost of like, you can do this.
Yeah.
You just love yourself. And like you said, right? Or sometimes I think we get too worried about how people think. And so we don't say anything. And my 25-year-old self would appreciate a little bit of like a high five and you got this and keep going.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And I really appreciate all your knowledge, because I don't know about any of you out there that's listening, but I am so piqued with interest now. I'm like, ooh, Naomi, we need to really connect, because I would love to. There are 4 million active podcasts out there, and there is a handful that's a perfect fit for whoever you are, whatever you're talking about, ever space you are interested in. And sometimes you just need to connect to people like you who has the knowledge base of that and the information. So I highly encourage you all to check out our show notes with all of Naomi's information and how to connect with her, and listen to the podcasts that she's been on. And like I said, if this was of value to you, please share, please spread the word about midlife women talking about our truth, really connecting to each other and sharing the journey that we're on right now. Thank you again, everyone. Until next time, thank you so much, Noemi, for being here. And have a great rest of your day, everyone. Bye. Thank you so much for being with me on today's journey. If you felt something resonate, if you saw yourself in this conversation, please take a moment to subscribe. Share it with a friend who needs this space, and leave a review. It helps others find us, and it's a small way you can be a part of this powerful movement. Ladies, this isn't just a podcast. It's a community, a revolution, a place where midlife women come together to embrace our hard-earned wisdom and vibrant truth. So thank you for being part of this. Remember, it's time. It's time to step into our truth. No more holding back. Midlife is ours to own, and it's only getting started. So, until next time, take a breath, honor your journey, and live with audacity, courage, and joy. This is our time, our truth, unraveled, revealed, and celebrated.